Hello there, welcome back. And I had to, how do I say that? Adjust myself because Janet's in the house and she's going to be talking about what I'm doing right now, sitting.
Sitting.
Okay, Janet.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good
Great.
to see you.
Good to see you too. So how are you seated? Now,
Comfortably.
Good. That's what it's all about. First of all, being able to sit comfortably. But you know, the funny thing is that during my trainings, I guess sometimes because you're sitting down for a long time, people tend to forget how they are seated, or they become absent-minded. And of course, unfortunately, if there are tables that don't have anything covering them, you begin to see all sorts. And how many people are you going to have to tell? And this is why I always emphasize it, that whenever you're seated, it doesn't really matter, you know, where. Just make sure that you have a formula where you sit in a most decent manner, because this is where we see whether you have social graces or not. This is where we see whether you have the right posture, the right gracefulness, you know. And it's not for women alone, I think even for men. So whether you're at the airport sitting in the lounge, you're waiting in a reception, waiting for a meeting, you're waiting for an interview, or you're waiting to have dinner, you're waiting for anyone, the way you sit really makes a big difference as to your posture. And I'm going to start by saying, first of all, when it comes to sitting, it's really all about your back. How is your back? So most times, the chair that you sit on makes all the difference, right? You need to make sure that the back of the seat is always upright. Sometimes there are chairs that slant, and automatically you're going to slant with the chair. And if you're not careful, if you tend to slump into your chair, you're going to look slouchy, and you're going to look very off guard. All right, if you really want to look like somebody who has, you know, the correct posture, the correct, you know, positioning and all of that, and the correct panache, you know, first of all, it's all about your back first. One, because of health reasons. You don't want to find yourself sitting in a position whereby you're going to have backache. Most especially if your job means sitting all the time. You're on the computer all the time. You need to always make sure that whatever you do, your back is always upright. All right. Now, sitting really is, again, all about the positioning of your legs, of course. Many times, some women forget that they're wearing very short skirts, and they just kaplonk on the chair and sit. I guess when we were growing up, when we were young, we always used to, you know, always say tidy up your outfit before you sit down. And it's not because you're trying to be pom-pom, you know, it's really about, yes, make sure that you are not going to put your bare legs on the chair, because sometimes when you're wearing something short, you sit down, your bare skin is touching the chair, and you have to be mindful in public places where hundreds of people are sitting on that same chair. So you don't want to really expose your body. So whether you're wearing short or long, or even trousers, most times, if it's part and parcel of you, you will do that. So you will literally tidy up before you sit down. Now, the big thing about sitting down really is when you're walking to a chair. Before we even talk about sitting, when you're walking to a chair, you see the chair right there, you want to sit on it. For example, you're at a conference or you're at a function and you want to get onto a seat, all right? I tell people, don't look at the chair as you're walking to it directly, because sometimes you will not see obstacles around you, you may trip over them. So you've seen the chair, walk towards the chair, turn around, tidy yourself and sit. Sit means make sure your back is upright, don't slouch. The neck as well. The legs are the most important part of your sitting. How are you seated, men and women alike? Now, many times we see people sitting with their legs wide open. If you're not careful, it will just open even wider. And for women, that doesn't look good at all. It's not graceful, it's not elegant, it doesn't show that you have social graces, and again, it then downplays and sabotages your image.
Before you go on, you said for women, if you sit and your legs are apart, of course, they have issues. What about men?
I will talk about men too, because with women, even if you sit like this and you're comfortable, and I'm wearing trousers, there's a tendency later on that is going to get wider and wider. So we always tell ladies as well, try and make sure that your two knees are together at any point in time. Now, if you're sitting for a short time, you can sit like this. Sometimes you can slant to the right or left, depending on which one you prefer. But if you're going to sit for a long time and you have two knees together and you slant, there's still a tendency for your legs to open. So I always tell ladies, complete your sitting by crossing your feet at the ankles. Now, this is in a business setting, this is in a normal setting, this is graceful. People tend to ask me, at one point in time, can I cross my legs at the knees? So sitting like this in a business setting is a sign of arrogance. It's a sign of arrogance. It's a sign of, look at me, you're the center of attraction. So if you have to cross your legs at all, for women in a business setting or in any graceful setting, sit with your knees together and cross at the ankles. All right. However, if you are in a social gathering, not to say that you can't cross your legs, you can, but you don't raise this leg high up. You can just do this. There's two different things. If you raise your knees like this and the bottom of your shoe is showing, in some cultures, it's rude.
Yeah.
It's rude to show the underneath of your shoe. But if you sit and you cross your knees and the two legs are facing down, in a social setting, this is nice. All right? Keeping your feet together like this, crossing them at the ankles is nice. The next thing is, what happens to my hands? Should they be flying here, there, and everywhere? Or should my hands be on my head, be on my arms, or should they be by the side of the chair? Where should I put my hands? At this point in time, I would say, if you want to sit down and your two knees are crossed like this, have your hands on your laps like this. Why am I saying that? The right hand needs to be free to shake someone else's hand. It needs to be free if you want to gesture as you're talking, which is a good sign that you're communicating. All right, palms are open at all times. But we don't want to see you patting your hair, leaning like this, which is another form of slouching, or, you know, scratching anywhere, or even touching your face. It's an image saboteur. So most times, in a comfortable way, not in a strained way, have your two hands on your lap. All right, that is definitely for women. Okay, now for men too, if you sit, some people say, so if I sit like this, I'm going to look so tight. Yes, that's true. But some men you can definitely sit comfortably. I would suggest with some men, you can hold on to the arms of the chair. It still makes you look very good and elegant. And most times, if you have to have your legs open, short, not wide.
I've seen some men
so
wide that you'll be wondering what's going on.
It's uncomfortable even for the person that is looking at you. So if you want to sit down, you have your legs open, just barely open, and not too wide. Now some men feel that it's cool to have your legs up like this. Once again too, in the business setting, it may sound like you are arrogant if you have your knees crossed like this, and therefore you need to be mindful of how you sit so people don't perceive you the wrong way. You're not sending the wrong message. I'm sitting now. So the way you're sitting is even nice. So you have, yes, it's nice, but you know, most times this is more for a social environment. Comfortable, legs crossed, you're looking at your iPad, you're reading something, and it's okay. But you know, if you want to have a meeting with another fellow man, two like this, crossed legs, that's not, it's looking a little bit more social than formal. All right, so I would suggest, if you have to sit down, have your legs open slightly for men. And then, you know, you can have two hands on your legs like this, which is still fine, making sure that your back is upright and not slouched back. Or you can have your hands, if there are two arms on the chair, you can have your two hands by the side of the chair. Sitting down is very important. It says a lot about one's personality.
Because you mentioned earlier about the back, because sometimes you forget, or depending on the kind of chair you sit in, and then you just slouch. You slouch
back. And before you know it, you're in a more relaxed mode.
You can doze off.
Yes.
So
you can doze off.
In the selection of a chair, because sometimes you go into a place where you don't have the opportunity to select your kind of chair.
Yes.
What do you do? And in some cases you find that they are throw pillows. What do you do with those pillows?
Yes, it depends. If it's a lounge setting, for instance, you can't take the throw pillows away. It's there for the aesthetics. So it's okay. You sit down with the throw pillows behind you, but the same way, make sure your back is upright, you're sitting comfortably. So for example, I just tidied myself up. I'm sitting with making sure that my back is firmly against the back of the chair. If you're sitting like this, you're sitting halfway on the chair, you are definitely going to slouch. It's going to make you even lower, all right? And before you know, you're looking too social than formal. So even when you're sitting, you always try to reposition yourself to make sure that you're seated in a comfortable and upright position. Because sitting, I mean, even with children too, you see the children too sitting anyhow, all right? And most times it's like, sit down properly, cross your legs, you know, you're not sitting very well.
Particularly for the girls.
For the girls, because it's the same way in walking and in standing that sitting actually applies. It's a whole routine, the 3 S's, striding, standing, and sitting. All right. So with sitting, this is your finished position. So we can tell if you are a leader or